Hi guys, welcome to some more watercolor videos. We are really excited about these because watercoloring is one of our favorite things to do. And what else are we gonna do right now? Might as well have some fun, right? So I'm gonna talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, outside of the subject matter, but that's using art to tell a story. And that's one of the things that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, was to tell stories with what I had available. And drawing was the thing that came to me the most naturally. So we're gonna do a series of 3, and it's gonna be a progression and a story following a little character that we're gonna do together, okay? And then you can take it at the end and make the story whatever you want the ending to be. So our first little picture is gonna be this little cat, and he's at the beach. So who doesn't want to go to the beach right now? It's starting to get warm, the weather's nice, and we're gonna do this little first step in our little story. So get your stuff, and actually I'll talk about what I have first and then you can get your stuff. How about that? So I've got some regular watercolor paper. It's mixed media. I think it's
300 pounds.
Yeah, like a 300 pound, like it's just, I think it's even like hot press or something. It's super smooth. It'll take the watercolors really nicely. I've got a watercolor brush, but mine has a well with water in the end. You can get these at Walmart. You can get these all over the place. And when you squeeze it, the water comes out. So it's really useful for doing watercolors when you have a little pan. I've got a mechanical pencil again, one of my favorites. And I've got a number 3 sized micron, but any fine point marker will do, a Sharpie, a Crayola, whatever you like. You know what, you don't even have to use a micron. You can use a ballpoint pen and they work just as well. And for my watercolors, I'm using this paint set that has no brand at all. I think I got this at Walmart, so you're more than welcome to go check these out, but the things that you use don't have to be expensive. They can be anything that you've got on hand. That's the beauty of making art. So let's get started on this guy today and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so I just kind of explained what I had. We're gonna get a little bit better a view of this. And we're gonna notice that my paper is a little bit different shape than this original, but I pulled this out of my little watercolor sketchbook that I take with me everywhere. And I carry these guys around. I had this little square guy here, and this is just a little travel kit for watercolors. And this one's by Winsor Newton. If you know this brand, it's just got a few little colors and a little brush that goes with it, but that's not what we're using today. It's not really what I used to make this, but just wanted to show those to you as well. So we're gonna use this, and one of the fun things that I like doing with watercolor is working wet and wet. It's one of my my favorites. So we're gonna do mostly that today. And I like working light to dark, which is pretty typical for watercolor. We're gonna start with the sky since it's the primary color here, and it's this really soft yellow. Let me move this out of the way a little bit so you can maybe see it a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna just lay groundwork of wet, and then we'll go from there. And so the nice thing about these little paint brushes that have the water reserve, if I didn't want to dip into this or I didn't want to carry a glass of open water with me, I could literally just squeeze the brush and it would produce water, which is super fun. And this super bright paper with this light, it's hard to see how much water I've put down. All right. You notice, like last time, Lori was very professional and taped her papers down, and I am not doing that because, well, I'm not. I'm a rebel. So there we go. That's pretty good. Got that covered up pretty good. So you can see how the paper wants to bow. And that's because I have not taped this paper down, and that's all right. I'm just going to hang on to it, so it'll be all right. And it'll probably cause me problems later on, but it'll be all right. We'll figure it out together. So we're going to do this. Get a little bit of these yellows going in here. And so to get these really soft colors, you really kind of dilute that paint back down so that when you start, see, it's just barely any color at all. But for an early morning light, going to the beach, why not? I recently went to the beach and got to hang out, and it was wonderful, and the waves were so pretty. It was so nice to be able to see the water and the sand and everything going on. It was really, really nice. Very inspiring. So we had a little...
Isn't that where you did the...
It's where I did this Kittle Cat, in fact, as well. I was sitting on the beach. Who doesn't want to go to the beach? I know I do right now, especially as the weather starts to get warmer. I want to go back. So we started there. And so our little cat is seeing a little bit of water and some sand in here. So I'm going to take some of our, kind of like an ochre color, and we're just going to really gently sort of give him some sand. I work in a lot of thin layers when I watercolor, so we're probably going to pause a couple times just to give it a chance to dry out, and hopefully maybe I'll remember to flatten my paper a little bit more. And okay, so there's our starting point, giving him a little bit of a horizon line and a little bit of a sky. Okay, so actually, you know what? We're not quite done with the sky. I want to add some more color in there. I'm gonna do a little bit of this orange. I'm a messy watercolorist, I guess is the word for that. But that's okay. You do it however you feel like it's good for you. So and my watercolor teacher would probably be like rolling over in his grave right now, but it's okay. We're here to have a good time. All right, so in here I've got a little bit of blue in here too, and I've got, you see the oranges I've got in here, so I'm gonna pull that little blue in there too. Let's see if I got the right color for that. Yeah. So right along that water line, that sky line. A little bit of blue. And working wet and wet gives me these really soft little gradients, which I really enjoy. And look, there's some more blue. Pull that right in there. Okay, so we're gonna pause right here. I'm gonna let this dry, and then we'll move on to the next layer of color so that it'll make some of these things more saturated, okay? Okay, so we've dried everything. We've got a couple little wet spots still, but that's all right for what we're doing. And I found some tape. This is just regular old paper tape. I do not recommend this for most watercolor projects, but it'll do at a pinch. So just be aware that it might tear the surface of your paper a little bit. So we're just gonna lay just a couple corners just to hold it down while I'm working on this.
Masking tape even works.
Yeah, masking tape is great. Painter's tape. Any kind of tape that is gentle on surfaces is really what you want. This tape is not it. But that's okay. All right, so we're gonna go back in and we're gonna add a little bit more depth to some of these colors. And so I'm squeezing my brush and it's giving me a little bit more water in there. Awesome. Okay, so now we can put the ocean right down here in the corner. Just get some nice blue going on. And the waterline can be kind of messy because I've never seen an ocean that's not messy, so it works for me. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit more of this ochre color and give it a little bit more color. And I'm working in a set of colors called complementary colors. They stand out against each other. So this teal and green color with this ochre yellow is really what's going to stand apart. So that if you did blue, orange is going to be its complement. If you did purple, it's going to be yellow. And so anything that you play with those colors, it really pushes the interest of whatever piece you're working on. And I really enjoy working in complements, and I try to do it as often as I can. And see, we've already left the color palette that was in our original, and I am totally okay with that because right now I feel like the colors need to be brighter. And we'll make that work with how you feel. And you should make it how you feel whenever you're telling a story, because that's all a part of storytelling in the first part, especially when you're not going by anybody's script. It's just yours. So it's going to be a nice sunny morning. Okay, so just a little bit of that. Okay, so I'm going to pause again. I'm going to dry one more time, and then we'll add in our little cat figure and we'll go from there. Okay, now we're all dry again, and I added some more tape just because it continued to curl. But now we're going to put our little character in here, and we'll see. I'll show you how this goes. I'm going to start off with my little pencil here for the cat, and he's basically just an oval, just to pencil him in. He's got some little ears. He's got a tail. And we're just going to give him sticks for legs. Sticks. Sticks. And some little clover feet, which are 3 little circles for his 3 toes at the end of each leg. Doesn't have to be particular, doesn't have to be atomically correct, it's just cute, and it's what you feel like doing. So we're going to give him some big cat eyes, and a little smile, and a little open mouth, and some big pupils, and I think I'm going to give him a little bit rounder head right here. All right, so that's my general shape that I'm going to do for my cat, and for this I'm going to use my micron now and go in and actually darken him in and give him his features, because then when I erase the pencil you won't see it, or I might even just go over it and you may not even see it, and I can just carry on with the watercolor from there, because I'm going to put some watercolor over top of him too. And so we're going to start with his eyes. Now, actually, I should stop right there and say, if I had gone ahead with my paper still wet and had applied more paint while the paper was still wet, the reason that it would just bleed everywhere. And that's the reason we dry in between layers, to intensify the color. We don't want the colors to leave the area I'm specifically telling it to be in. If you want a wet and like a real blendy, bleeding look, you can work color right in on top of each other. And that is a very artful, very impressionistic way to work. But because I was telling a little bit more of a narrative, I wanted that drier, a little bit more baseline look. Okay, so play with that. Try it both ways and see how you like it, because it could be completely up your alley to work wet and wet all the way through. And there are lots of artists that do just that. So we're going to give his eyes some definition. They're just sketchy, nothing too intense. I'll give his little smile, his little ears. Actually, I'm going to move this ear back a little bit. I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to show you why I'm filling these in just a second. This other ear can be right here. Fill it in. I'm going to fill in his feet, his little toes. This little cat reminds me of my cat at home. You saw me do a cat in one of the series for the last videos. Cats are one of my favorite animals, so I do them a lot, but it's because I'm surrounded by them and they give me a lot of source material to work with. This one specifically, he's a little black cat at home. He looks just like this little guy. He likes to travel. I find him all over the house doing all sorts of things, so it just makes sense that he would also go to the beach. And we're going to color this leg in. Color this leg in. This leg. Just giving it nice, dark features. Okay, so now comes the really fun part of this cat. He is just a bunch of squiggles. So we're just going to start squiggling. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can leave the original circle that we made for him. It can be big loops. I try to be careful around his eyes and around his little features, just because I want those to stand out still. But you know what? If you make a mistake and you go over into it, we can fix that. That's totally all right. So we're just gonna make him as squiggly as we can get him. fill him in. And the denser you make your squiggles, the blacker he looks. So if you like that loose texture, don't make your squiggles too tight. If you like the darker, denser, more like real black fur look, then you can make those little squiggles really tight little circles. I kind of like them in between because I'm going to apply some watercolor over the top. Okay, now that that's pretty well filled in, and give him a little bit more definition around his eyes. I'm gonna give him some whiskers, which we didn't get in the first one. Okay, now we're gonna do his tail, and his tail is really fun. Like here I went back, you can see here, I went back and forth from the top to the bottom to give it like some texture, but I've discovered a way that I like a little bit more, and we're gonna do it this way, and you'll see it in the next two pictures how I did them differently. And art is always evolving, so it's okay to change your style as you go throughout something. So we're gonna go like loops, like a little flower all the way around. Loops, 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 loops. Loops, 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 loops. And I just think this makes him look very puffy, and it kind of gives that tail a little central point to look like, you know, where his tail is and his fuzz.
It looks like he's getting ready to pounce.
Yes! He's so excited to be at the beach! So excited. And so you see, as I go over it, the center point where I'm starting gets darker and darker, so it gives it more like a form to hang on to. I'm going to give him a little bit more squiggles here in the middle. Okay, all right. So now that I've got him laid in, I'm going to give him a little bit of a background line, just a little line to show the horizon, and make sure his pupils are nice and good. All right. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get my brush wet, squeeze this some water out here, and just a little bit of this black watercolor, and I'm just going to lay that in to kind of give him just a little bit more opaqueness, so he's not just scribbles over what I've already done. And it kind of comes out just being gray. It's going to pick up a little bit of what's behind him, and that's all right. I don't mind that at all. I just want to give him a little bit more substance. And a little bit in his legs. Okay, all right, so I really like him where he's at. I'm gonna do just a little bit more right in here, right around his little face and eyes. Of course, it's kind of all face and eyes because he's a bean, but y'all know what I mean. So right in there. Okay, all right, so the last thing I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna give him a little bit more depth with this water back in here, a little bit brighter, because sunshiny beach. Okay, all right. I think that's good for this one, you guys. I hope you enjoyed following along with me on this one. We're gonna pick up the next one and we'll do the next set in just a minute. And thank you so much. If you'd like to see more, do subscribe to our channel. You can hit the little bell and you'll know when the next part comes out, and we'll see you then.